Funny Games, the film, as you talked about, written and directed, Michael Haneke, remake of his 97 Austrian film. Um, I have not seen the 97 Austrian film, funnily enough. I've still only seen Funny Games, like the American version.
Oh,
I've seen this
interesting.
movie multiple times, and as you know, I saw this movie tragically as a young man, as a young boy. I saw this movie for whatever reason. It was one of those things, and I guess this is a story that I would have gone on if I didn't want to talk about it like as the number one film. But it's one of those things where it's like growing up in the Dominican Republic. We had a channel. It was like channel 10 and sometimes channel 7, where in which they would just randomly show movies. It doesn't matter what movies they were. It could, I mean, I don't know who was making these decisions. They would just show random movies. I don't think they never had licensing. This was not actually like a movie channel. It was just like a channel that was like a local channel in my country. And sometimes they would switch up their programming and just have movies. Um, so yeah, it was one of those movies where, it was introduced to me and I wasn't even looking for it. I remember just kind of being bored, just switching through channels. And I remember that I was alone at our house. My mom was there, but I think my mom was just like napping or sleeping. It was like a Saturday.
Yeah.
And my siblings were just not home. So it was just me. And so I was looking for things. And in this exact same way is how I saw like a handful of movies. Because another movie that I saw like within like my childhood years was The Ring. I saw The Ring as a kid. I saw like the Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher. Like it was like a handful of movies that I saw that were just like adult movies I had no business watching. Somehow they were showing these movies and I ended up watching them either alone or with my siblings. Um, and this is a film that I watched by myself, and I was just switching channels, and I was just captivated because I was like, what is going on here? I was like, what is going on with this family? Why are these guys harassing them? And then ultimately it escalated from there, and somewhere within me, there's probably trauma from having seen this
Yeah.
movie because then obviously I was always kind of afraid growing up of like home invasions or people coming into our house. Like, anything of that sort. I developed like a huge kind of like thing. I overcame that eventually. But I just kind of had that in my head, especially because there's people to whom that happened to that we knew growing up in the country that I grew up in.
Oof.
That happened to that shit happened to them. So I've had I don't know why my voice was breaking there, but there's like
It's the
the fact that
trauma,
I think
man.
exactly there's like trauma and then just like by proxy of knowing that other people have experienced these things, and then just dealing with having to come to terms with the fact that this movie's showing you that there are despicable people on this planet,
Yeah.
you know. And this movie shows you, like you said, two of the most despicable human beings, flippant about the atrocities that they were committing, flippant, flippant. Like that's the best word. It's just not
Yeah.
caring. It's like they were not interacting with humans. Like they were playing like a video game or like they were playing with like some bug that they just discard. It's like, okay, we're done playing here.
Yeah.
These toys are not fun anymore. We're not gonna play with these toys. We're gonna go and play with new toys. So the movie also has this element of just kind of like um this like unending cycle of just kind of being like these people are these entities. They're not even human. They're like these weird Peter and Paul cartoon entities, like
Yeah.
these weird like angels or demons things. And it's like a luck of the draw. Did they go to your house? Did they not go to your house? Did you do something that bothered them? Did you not do something that bothered them? This is just a misfortune that's happening to you. It's like a fucking natural disaster. And that's the best way to put it. These guys are just like natural disasters. It's just like a cosmic thing, like fucking Galactus or something
Yeah.
in the X-Men. It's just it doesn't matter. There's no morality attached to it. It's just happening. And watching human beings deal with it. Again, this movie was just kind of traumatizing for me watching this film, and it stuck with me through
Yeah.
years. It stuck with me my entire life. It stuck with me so much that you and I talked about it. I introduced you to this movie, and I was like, "Dude, this is the movie that fucking
Yeah.
traumatized me as a kid."
Yeah.
Um,
They
so
even do
it's
they it works on that level too with them being sort of a force because they do that Joker thing from the Dark Knight.
Mhm.
They before the Dark Knight came out a year before, they did that thing where he gives him multiple versions of. He's like, "Why are you doing this?" And he gives him like
Right.
three versions of like, "Oh, this is where we come from, and this is
Exactly. Yeah,
and you're
yeah, and
like,
it
"Oh well."
right, and like you
It's like it
said
doesn't matter.
before.
They're just fucking. They're devices. They're plot
Exactly,
devices
exactly.
basically.
And like you said, before it was like in vogue, before Nolan did it, like Haneke was kind of deconstructing these tropes and just kind of saying like, hey, there's no explanation to these guys. We're not gonna come out here and like give you an origin story. Like it doesn't really matter.
No.
And I remember when you and I talked about this film, there is a scene near the end of this film that had stuck with me has stuck with me through my entire life. And you and I,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. Is this scene where these characters are like in this boat, and you're like, what's gonna happen? Where are things going from here? And then the way that it's handled is so heartbreaking and so kind of like infuriating in a way, and
Yeah.
disconcerting, and it just makes you feel uncomfortable. Um, yeah, this is for my money, not the most terrifying film of all time, I would say, because I might give that to The Wailing for me and my experiences,
Yeah.
but I would say that this is the most like psychologically scaring and traumatizing and horrific film. Like when it comes to psychological horror, this is it. This is the best one
Yeah.
I've ever seen. This movie is also immaculate. Michael Haneke is one of my favorite filmmakers, and this movie is just a masterclass. I mean, there's not much that you can say against this film or against the fact or even the musical choices, how things are handled, the acting, even for the fucking little kid. Little
Yeah.
kid is incredible. Yeah, not really much else to say about this movie that hasn't been said. Jake and I will probably do at some point a commentary on this film, maybe next October, who knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this, I mean, again, for my money, the greatest psychological horror film of all time.